Great morning. Uh, at a time, uh, there's the dialogue throughout the course of a year. There's there's a lot going on, right? You hear, uh, whether who's going to get in the tournament, whether it's our sport or other sports or uh, transfer portal stuff, revenue sharing, conference alignment, whatever it is. There's just TV, so much, uh, you know, I don't know if I'll call it distractions, but a lot of different topics. And it's just when you get to this part of the season and just being able to be in the gym with a totally different energy with your players and I think sometimes the narrative of just the work that the players and the staffs around the play itself is just there's just nothing like it. They're just this is the we're I'm fired up to have another at least another week with this group and being in the gym and traveling and being in the film room with them and trying to find ways to continue to get better. We've got some, we head down to Austin this week with three other teams that are having a great year. All four teams, I think, are playing their best volleyball at the end of the season. We've got a big time challenge in front of us, and Stanford, a big time opportunity in front of us. A team that's had a great season and a really good mix, like we do, of some veteran players and some young players. And looking forward to putting in a good solid week with our team and heading down there in a couple days and seeing what we can do.
One of the fun sidebars of this is obviously the Andrews sisters facing off. What's your take on just the oddity of having that kind of a matchup and the whatever sibling rivalry? And they play the same positions. They could be on the floor together, or they could be opposite. Does that enter into any planning, or what? Just your take on that coincidence happening?
Yeah, I don't. There's enough going on, I can imagine, in the selection room that I don't think they're planning these types of storylines that oh, wouldn't that be fun? But you certainly have them. I mean, there's a lot of these fun little things that were potentials at other parts of the bracket as well. But yeah, I'm sure that will be a point of pride for their parents. I mean, that's certainly when you're having two high-level Division One starters on teams that are top 5, top 10 in the country playing the same position. I mean, that's pretty unique, and they're both talented and competitive, and but I also know that the players aren't going to make it about themselves or the person that's on the other side of the net. They're parts of teams that are trying to move on and move forward and play great volley but I'm sure it'll be a match and an opportunity that everybody will cherish.
To have your biggest week of volleyball yet this season also be the first week of the portal. Kind of curious your thoughts on the way that kind of the volleyball the portal schedule with the tournament schedule, how that plays out and how that maybe puts teams that are doing well and playing at this stage maybe at a disadvantage.
I think it's a damn shame that it's the timing of it teams that are still playing or they want to focus on their current teams and their current rosters. Players that are potentially still playing that think they're wanting to leave, being torn between being in the moment, but also the longer that you wait, you could possibly be losing out on opportunities, schools that may need your position that no longer do once you're gone. People, as soon as their season is done, that there ought to be kind of almost it's an emotional time. It's not just playing, but you've got finals and things like that, homesickness for some of the younger ones. I think we'd be a lot better off. We'd be thinking about the players. If there was a little bit more space than what it is right now. And then the other thing is you'd like this time of the year to be about the volleyball, the stuff on the court where the spotlight is on that. And so I think hopefully we're heading toward the time where we're going to put in a window that makes a little bit more sense. I've got confidence that we'll eventually get to that. But it's tough right now. I would say but it's only a distraction if you allow it to be a distraction. It's certainly not a distraction for us and our team and our staff. But that's one of those things that we could probably do a better job. That probably makes sense for everybody.
So Kelly, piggybacking off of what John had just asked, just how much time are you and your staff, during this crucial time where it is the Sweet 16 and the potential to move on to the Final Four after this weekend, how much time are you spending talking about portal stuff, and how much time do you have to devote right now to that while you're still trying to prepare for Stanford and potentially whoever comes next?
You have to have somebody on staff that's kind of paying attention to that, right? Or you're just not doing your the future will be at your doorstep at some point, and you better be prepared for that. And so the key is that how do you organize your staff, your people, and so yeah, there's somebody that's certainly doing that. Gary is kind of taking the lead on that. He's not a coach, right? And so he's not out there on the court and doing everything that's. So we're fortunate that we've got somebody that can kind of pay attention and kind of is knowing when those things are happening, and then if we need to have a conversation, we'll have a conversation. But the people that need to be focused on the task at hand in front of us on the court are certainly able to do that.
Stanford has had some uncertainty at setter. And with some injuries, I understand. So does that change your preparation at all, if that uncertainty, not knowing potentially who's going to be running their offense?
It would if one of them was not very talented or not very good, then maybe you're sitting there going, well, maybe I'll cross my fingers on this. But their hitting percentages as a team are pretty darn similar, no matter who. They, earlier in the year they were both setting, and then they kind of have traded off a little bit. Certainly, one of them is having has been leading the show a little bit more than the other. But the offense seems to run the same. The decision-making is very similar between each of them. There's not a big difference in hitting percentages from player to player off of each of them. So there's, each of them have their own strength. So I don't think the match is going to be won or lost at who is doing that. I think they've got tremendous depth at that position. And they've developed that depth. So although there's probably a little bit of uncertainty, in this case, I don't think it affects us at all. And they'll be just fine.
Speaking to the comment that you made about the energy is different around this time of the year, what are some of the look and feel from your end that you're seeing that's ramping up here, and what are you looking to foster going into our trip?
You want your team and your players to feel like they can conquer the world at this time of the year. And is there a drive and a work ethic and a joy, all those things, and a freedom that all comes together, discipline. And you can't really manufacture it. You can tell when a team is excited to be around each other. They're excited to be at in the gym. They're not tired of of the coaches and their messages. They're still leaning into all that. And this group seems to be all of that. Is they're leaning into. They're excited. They they certainly seem like they want to be around each other. Had a few of them that still stopped by the office this morning and still kind of early, so means they're not tired of us yet, which is usually a good sign. And so, yeah, I just think they're chomping at the bit to get going. This is a long week between our last match and this next one. We were one of the first ones done. The opening weekends were one of the last ones to get started this second week, so it's a little bit longer break. They probably don't know what to do with themselves right now, but you just want them hungry, you want them excited, you want them to continue to enjoy the process.
Going back to Allie, kind of how do you sum up the impact that she's made in this 1 year here?
Huge. All of our new kids. It's really one of the great stories of of our season is how so many new people, whether they're freshmen or transfers in, have just kind of come together and they've molded, and they've all found kind of their niche, their spot. Where they can have the most impact. Everybody's accepted their roles. That's a big part. It's, you're not always seeing that role acceptance in today, right? But I think there's a pride that everybody on our team has in the role that and where they fit in. Allie is, a high competitive kid. Really wants to be good for the people around her. Wants to do her job. Takes pride in her job. There's a maturity, but yeah, there's a playfulness that is a really good balance for her. Love coaching her. I mean, there's just she's wired the right way. She really is.
Going along the lines of with Allie, just have you ever had a situation like this where such high stakes in a Sweet 16 matchup where you have siblings facing off, and if so or if not, just like, do you have to talk to her about anything?
Yeah, not to top of mind. I don't know. Can you think of anybody? But at our age, you lose it a little bit. I need to lean on people like you. You've got that young mind, but I don't want to forget about somebody. But whether it's happened before or not, for us, it's still kind of unique and fun. Have we talked a little bit? But she's mature. She's been through this. I'm not going to have a big discussion. It's some people you would, right? And some players you got to sit down and maybe they go back to a previous school or whatever, and they make things really, really big in their mind. And some people you have to sit down and have those conversations with. That's not Allie. Especially going into neutral site and what's at stake and all those things. I think it's not building it up. It's just probably joyful and thankful and wanting to turn it loose.
So did you ever compete against Sean in anything?
Yeah, we ran and I got my share licks in there, but as the younger brother, he probably got more than maybe what I'd want, and yeah.
Playing well for Carter is nothing new, and you've talked about her a lot over the course of the year and the importance she has. But she seems to be getting, like every match, saying, wow, Carter. Yeah, it just seems to be growing, and at a time usually when people have hit a level that they don't get beyond, she seems to get beyond it every match. Put in context what she's done this year and the growth you've seen in her just on the court, off?
What you want to see out of players, and you like to do it as soon as possible, right? But you're really hoping by the time that they're, in their last year, that they're in control of themselves. They know how to get their bodies ready. They know how to get their minds ready. Moments aren't too big, but yet they're there. There's a strength about moving on after errors. There's a clarity in how they see the game and, how people are defending them, and then be able to have the skill set to kind of make adjustments. Be able to be consistent in how they approach day to day. I mean, you want all those things. And Carter certainly has arrived at those things. She can handle when things aren't perfect. She doesn't, her mind and her heart and her breathing doesn't get to go too fast where she speeds up the game by herself. You'd like them to be able to slow it down, and she's able to do that. And all of that comes because you put the work in, and she's put the work in, and she's having a great season, a season that she's gotten stronger and stronger as the year has gone on. But it doesn't just come. She's put the work in, and the confidence that comes along with it is earned.
Looking at this regional, you have the team that I think was, number 3 and the team that's number 5, I believe, in the coaches poll going in the tournament in one region. Do you feel like you got maybe a relatively tough draw here in Austin?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, these are two of the teams that have, won the most national championships in our program's history, right? But I can promise you this: if I was at a different region, everybody in their regions is just looking at the teams that are in front of them, and going, "Man, this is really, really tough. What we've got in front of us." Those other suckers have it easy, Well, they're not studying those other teams, right? They're just studying the ones that are in front of them, and typically, everybody that makes it to this, they're just playing really good volleyball, and their high ends are really high end, and you're going to get somebody's best, so you're not looking at somebody's low end. You're looking at what it is when they are on top of their game, and when you're watching that, you're thinking, "Wow, this is a tough mountain to climb." I think that every year. But then as you get going through the week, you start thinking, all right, if we do this, we might be able to have a little success. If we do this, we might be able to have a little success. And it's a lot of film watching for everybody right now. But it's a Stanford, I think, has won more national championships than anybody. They probably have knocked us out of the NCAA tournament more in my time here than any other team. Texas has won 2 of the last 3 national championships. IU's experiencing their best season in program history, and their future looks really, really good. And they do some things at a really high level that I wouldn't be surprised to see them moving on. It's 4 teams that and staffs that are really competitive and really do a great job of teaching. So the play should be really good this week, but I think the adjustments will also be really, really good this week.
A lot has changed since you last played them last year, Stanford. But in that match, Trinity was playing front row. She got thrown in as a freshman the first 3 matches, and then a lot has happened to her since that didn't involve playing much, and yet now she's kind of a interesting pinch hitter for you in different spots. Just her journey from thrown in by circumstances as she just got here to where she is now, and her growth.
Yeah, we've had a tough time getting her on the court consistently. She's had some tough injury things that she's been having to deal with, and anytime that you're having to deal with those, especially during the season, it can be really lonely. Teams doing one thing and you're kind of doing others. But she's slowly gotten a little bit healthier and doing a little bit more as we've gone, and she's capable of being a really big lift for us. Certainly she was there at the end of the Carolina match. It's not only a big-time block, huge momentum play, but there was also a really scrambled out-of-system set that she gives Grace Egan, and Egan just made a big-time swing off the block. Miley came in and put in a few serves for us, made a couple really nice digs in a rally that was right there at in-game situation, in the red zone. And that's that's what you're wanting. You want your players to be confident in themselves, to be able to go in those and have an impact. And certainly both of those two had a big-time impact in a really critical need, and I'm sure that'll build their confidence kind of, moving forward. And, because we tell them all the time, you just never know. And they've got some skill sets that we needed at that moment, and they came in and delivered.
This is the 13th one of these that you've had here. When you have somebody at Mimi's position, at the caliber of Mimi, how much of a difference does that make in terms of a team's ability to really make a special run?
You can't go far in this tournament without having at least one aircraft carrier, and she is that. And we've been fortunate to have some in the past. She's as good as anybody we have had, and every team right now that's still available has somebody like that. You have to have somebody like that, and that doesn't mean that they're just doing. You've got to have somebody that when it's winning time that they're capable of going. That doesn't mean that you can't go to other people. And certainly, the other night, Allie had a big time kill on a slide. Carter had a big time kill on a slide. Una had a big kill on a go. Grace Egan, we talked about earlier, that out of system swing, and then Mimi, the final play of the match, out of hitting the bick out of the back row and crushing that. Everybody's making plays, and you need everybody making plays. But man, if you've got one or two people that can say, "Here, jump on my back, let's go." I feel like we've got a couple of those, but certainly Mimi is as good as anybody in the country at that.
Kelly, I know y'all have had a great offensive year amongst top 5, maybe top 2, not 2, in a few categories, but Stanford itself, top 10, top 12 in a number of different categories. Is there anything that really stands out to you about just what they do offensively?
Yeah. Wow. They've got 2 middles that are really, really good at attacking the slide. They'll give them the ball in front of them, but they utilize them a lot. They've got a big time kid on the opposite that can thump balls, and they go to her a lot in the front row and the back row. She can hit at both pins. She can hit at the pipe. And their left sides, I mean, those are Ruben and Blyashaw. Ruben is the same level as Mimi. She's had an amazing career. 4-year All-American, and has taken big swing after big swing after big swing, her entire career, and is just fearless. Might be the best passing team in the country. All 3 of them are really elite passers. They've got a libero who's jumped in there as a freshman, setter that's, depending on which one, you've got a freshman or a sophomore in that, but they've got they're comfortable going to any position at any time. And when you've got a team that it's as balanced as them, then they can kind of do what you give them. And, that elite passing team, a really, really good serving team. They're not giving you as many errors behind the service line as what they've done in the past, but they're still an elite serving team. Very, very disciplined blocking team. Very disciplined along the front row. They've got a couple first-team All-Americans on attacking. Very few people have had the season that their libero has had. I mean, it's hard to find weaknesses in this team. It really, really is. They're a well-oiled machine that has gotten a lot better, especially when they're healthy. They're a handful.
Last questions?
Thanks, guys.